Hi, this is Emma Hemming-Willis.
And I'm Helen Cristoni.
Welcome to our Make Time podcast. We are two women on a mission to uncover the secrets of making time for everything.
From work and relationships to our brain, body, and beauty, we'll explore it all and share it with all of you.
We interview experts so we can discover more practical tips to make time so we have more time for our family, friends, and ourselves.
So join us as we chat with incredible guests who share their expertise on all the ways we can learn to make time, especially for you.
Okay, it's time to make time. Today on the Make Time podcast, we're joined by Dr. Nicole Buerkens to talk about one of our favorite topics, making time for women's brain health. She's a licensed clinical psychiatrist, board-certified nutritionist, and a leading expert in integrative approaches to brain wellness. With nearly 3 decades of experience, Dr. Nicole has helped thousands of children and adults improve mood, focus, and overall well-being by addressing the powerful connection between the brain and the body. She's also the founder of an integrative mental health clinic, a best-selling author, and award-winning therapist. So let's make time for Dr. Nicole Buerkens.
Hi, Dr. Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Make Time podcast. Emma and I are so excited to have you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
So I've known Dr. Nicole for quite a few years now, and I'm thrilled that she's going to be on talking to our guest today. And I'm just really grateful that you're able to join us. So we're super excited. So Dr. Nicole, I will start it off. What is the most important thing that you think it's important for women to make time for, and why?
Hands down for me, it's brain health. And it's brain health, not just because I am in middle age with grown kids and, heading towards older adulthood now, but even as I think about being in my younger years, before I had kids, when my kids were little, women, we use our brains in amazing ways all the time for like managing everything in our own lives and the lives of people around us. And we don't think about how hard our brains are working and how much we can do, even in simple ways, to protect our brains as we head into our older years. And so often we don't think about anything with our health until it's a problem, right? And I think brain health is especially like that. We just take for granted that, oh, I'm a woman, my brain can take care of everything, right? I'm used to juggling a million things. I can focus, I can multitask, I can manage the kids and work and home. And we just take for granted that our brain operates in that way until we start to get into a phase of life or have some kind of health issue or something where our brain starts to not work as well. And then we go, oh my gosh, my brain is not working the way it used to. Oh no, what do I do about this? And so I really am a proponent of the message that if we can, A, be aware of and appreciate all the amazing ways that our brain functions for us throughout life, and B, be proactive about doing things at every stage of life to help preserve and protect our brain function. It helps us function not only better now in whatever stage of life that we're in, but as we age as well. So to me, that is like the most important thing. And the research is more and more bearing that out as well, which I think is super, super exciting.
Yeah, I always say prevention is better than cure. So you're absolutely speaking to the choir over here.
And I think that just like being a woman does not set you up for success for brain health, period. Like, like just being the sex that we are and being, born a woman, we have hormones, we go through puberty and then we have our children, and that's like a whole hormonal situation, and then perimenopause and menopause and then pile on all the other stuff that just goes along with being a woman, whether it's like, kids, juggling, calendars, lack of sleep, postpartum, all this stuff. Like we just have not been served a good brain health hand to begin with.
Decision-making, scheduling,
That's right.
You name it. It's just like such a fatigue that our brains go through in general.
Huge fatigue. And to your point, Helen, there's amazing things that we as women are given on a physiological and neurological level to be able to handle all that stuff. But there's also a lot more things then that can start to go sideways, especially as we go through those phases of different hormone changes, especially. And again, I think we often are just so busy and so focused on doing all the things and meeting everybody's needs and taking for granted that our brain will just continue to do that, that we're not often as proactive as we could be or as we should be. And, research has shown for a long time, let's take a condition like Alzheimer's, for example, where we know that affects women at hugely greater numbers than it does men. And when you start looking at the physiology and you start looking at even more recent research, helping us to understand, why that is, it has a lot to do with these hormone changes. It has a lot to do with the things that we go throughout the different phases of life and the unique physiology of our brains and bodies. So I think it's a hugely important conversation. It's a big part of why I'm such a fan of what you are doing with raising awareness and providing solutions. And I think even just to frame the conversation around the fact that prioritizing your brain health and doing things to proactively support your brain health doesn't need to be this huge additional energy drain or thing on your to-do list, right? Like I know if you're out there listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I know, but it's one more thing. And like, I'm overwhelmed just thinking about, oh my gosh, now I have to like focus on things that take care of my brain along with everything else. I think it's important to just frame this as there are really simple daily habits, effective things that we can do that don't add on a huge amount of burden to us, that are things that we can prioritize easily building into our lives that can be really effective. And, I think it's also important to note that the things that we know are good for our physical health. So if you're focused on maintaining your physical health, or even, aesthetically, how you look, how you feel in your body, those things are all so connected to brain health. And I think maybe before we get into tips, I'll just say that I also think it's important to frame this conversation around the fact that the brain and the body are completely connected. This idea that we have mental health or we have brain health and we have physical health, that is a very strange Western medicine sort of way of dividing us into these categories that just isn't accurate, right? It's not like we are disconnected from here up. And I've always said that as a mental health practitioner, as a licensed psychologist, this idea that, well, I go see you for my mental health and I see my medical doctor for my physical health. Meanwhile, it's all completely connected. What we do, what's going on in our physical body, how we nourish ourselves, how we move our body, illnesses or disease processes that we may have going on physically, absolutely impact everything about how our brain functions. And the reverse is also true. The things that are going on in our brain, mentally, physically, neurologically, are absolutely impacting everything in the body. So I want to frame the conversation that way too, because sometimes when we talk about brain health, people think, oh, we're just going to be talking about some things, up here that I can think about, or, but no, there's so much of this interconnection. But that's also the great news, is that when we do some of these things to support one part of the body or support the brain, we're supporting everything. And so I think as women, especially, we can benefit from that way of thinking of tackling multiple areas with one solution or one strategy or one daily practice that can have a huge impact systemically for everything in our bodies.
That's what I realized when I started learning more about brain health, that when I started looking after my brain, I realized that the rest of my body benefited as well, which...
Yeah. I think also, make time. One of the things that we really love to do is check a couple of those boxes off. As much as women can check a couple boxes off at one time, the better. So really, I love the whole integrative approach here. And I'm so excited to get into this. So Dr. Nicole, talk to me about please give our listeners 3 actionable tips, how they can make time for their brain health.
Yeah. So my first one is to develop what I call nutrient rituals. Now, I'm a big fan of nutrition and nutrients for nourishing the brain and body. It's why I went back and got a degree in nutrition and really focused on that in my work with patients around brain health, around mental health, because the way that we nourish our bodies has everything to do with how our brain functions. So these nutrient rituals are just simple ways of, sometimes people call it habit stacking, but ways of building routines into the day that help us make sure that we meet our nutrient needs. For the brain in particular, and for women in particular, what are some of those nutrients that we're talking about? We're talking about protein as a macronutrient first and foremost. Most women are not getting enough protein, and that is hugely protective and hugely beneficial for brain function. So how can we work more protein into the day, building some rituals around that? I like to start out in the first part of the day, making sure that I am getting a great amount of protein to start the day. Number one, my brain and body just feels better that way. And actually there's good research on that front loading protein, whether you want to do scrambled eggs or you want to grab some, meat sticks on your way out the door, or you want to put protein powder in your coffee, whatever it is, that really helps to jumpstart the day and help our brain stay more focused, keep our energy level. The other thing that I think it does psychologically for us when we front load some of these things earlier in the day, we already emotionally feel like we've had a win, right? When I can get to like 9 o'clock in the morning and feel like, oh, Helen, to your point, I already checked some of those boxes, right? Man, I'm already at 30 grams of protein for the day. That is really motivating and also helps set up then for us to make better choices or have a stronger, progression to the day with these kinds of things. So nutrient rituals, protein in the morning. The other nutrient ritual that I do that I think is really beneficial for people is, how can I get as many of my supplements in one sort of thing as possible? So for me, I take a long walk every morning early, and I fill my water bottle and put as many of my nutritional supplements in there as I can. Again, for ease, for time savings. Women, we don't have, time to be figuring out taking pills and things throughout the entire day. So how can we create a ritual around that? For me, it's my electrolyte powder. It's my collagen powder. It's my multi powder. It's my magnesium. It's mixing it all up and taking it with me on my walk. Now, that's what works for me. What I encourage everybody to do is figure out how to build these things into what you are already doing so it doesn't become another to-do. Right? I think that's why so many people fail at things like, let's just even say a supplement routine. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to remember and I have to have these out and I take them throughout the day. Simplify it for yourself. Create a ritual. Can be at any time in the day. For me, it happens to be in the morning because that feels better to me. But figure out how to make it simple and easy. And then you get into that habit. Right? It's just a habit, just like making coffee for me in the morning is a habit. Filling my water bottle, putting my nutrients in there, that's a habit. And then I know that I have that supplement support to support my brain, to support my body as I go through the day. So that's my first tip.
Hello, lovely ladies. Are you ready to take charge of your wellness journey? Look no further than Make Time Wellness. We've worked tirelessly to develop delicious all-in-one drink mixes that make a woman's daily wellness easy and delicious. Make Time Wellness supplements offer comprehensive formulas for your brain, body, and beauty in that order without having to take handfuls of pills. Make Time is packed with powerful ingredients like MCTs, omegas, biotin, multivitamins, and curcumin. Our formulas are designed for busy women by busy women. Check us out on maketimewellness.com/podcast20 and enjoy 20% off your first purchase. Make time for your brain, body, and beauty with Make Time Wellness. I love the habit stacking.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I have to do it as well. I have to get a lot of stuff done for me in the morning because the days just get so busy. right? So I think it's really about finding the time that's suitable for you, and continue to do it and have it form a habit.
Yeah, and give yourself a couple weeks to get into the groove with it, but build it in a way. What I always said to patients is, if you're a couple weeks into any new routine, whether it's, maybe a movement or an exercise routine or a stress reducing routine or a new food or nutrient routine, if you're a couple weeks in and it's still feeling really, stressful, laborious, like you're forgetting to do it at times, then we need to relook at how we've got that routine set up, right? Because the goal is that these things have ease in your schedule and in your life. So I really encourage people to look at how to make these things fit and work in a way that is not going to add on additional stress, but is going to help you feel successful with building these things in and doing it. It's one of the things that I love about, with Make Time Wellness, you guys have the drink mix, the powdered mix. And it's one of the things that I think is so smart with that is that it allows people who are busy, women who are busy, to easily throw that in a water bottle and go about your day, right? Can throw that in a water bottle, head out for my walk that I'm doing anyway. And now I have checked multiple boxes: hydration, nutrient support, adaptogen support, all of those things while I'm taking the walk that I was going to do anyway. So that's my first tip, is to create those rituals with nutrients. My second one, I think of this as protecting cognitive space. One of the things that is really important for protecting and preserving brain health is not constantly overloading ourselves. Now, that feels almost impossible, especially depending on what stage of life you're in. If you've got kids still in the school years and you're working and all those things, I completely get that. I have been there. A little easier for me now with my kids, 19 to 25, and not needing the same level of daily support anymore. But what I mean by protecting cognitive space is making sure that we have some things built into the day where we are not overloading and overtaxing our brain. You can think of it as like these little reset or rest periods for the brain. Walking is one of my absolute favorite ways to do this. Walking, you don't have to walk fast. You can walk slow, fast, whatever you want to do. But walking is hugely regulating and very supportive from a mental health and emotional level. Also very supportive at a physiological level, not just because we're moving our body and helping to maintain weight or whatever else we might walk for, but it supports blood flow. And it supports something called BDNF, which is like fertilizer for your brain. And that helps us to preserve and protect and grow new brain connections. So simple walking is one of the best things that we can do. It also helps us to, unless you're having a super stressful work conversation or whatever while you're doing it, it helps preserve that protective space. It creates this little bubble of space and time, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour or whatever it's going to be, to slow things down in the brain, to give the brain that space to protect that cognitive space and also do those physiological benefits that help. Another way to protect cognitive space is being mindful of our digital habits, right? This is, I think, over the last decade, one of the things that has been most problematic for us in terms of our cognition, in terms of our brain health, is that we spend a lot of time now with our face in a screen and mindlessly scrolling and taking in all of this content, and it's like endless, right? It's a real double-edged sword, the ability to have so much information available to you, but then also having so much information available to you. And it is incredibly taxing and overloading for the brain, even if you're just consuming what may feel like funny or mindless kinds of videos or whatever. The brain is still stimulated. The brain is still taxed by that. And so I think one of the things that we can do to protect our cognitive function and protect and preserve, our brain health is by being mindful of that. It doesn't mean you have to put the phone down for hours at a time, but it does mean, again, building in some of those rituals. Like for me, it's the phone doesn't come to bed with me. So I'm not tempted to sit there and scroll if I, have trouble falling asleep or whatever. The phone doesn't come in the bathroom with me. The phone doesn't come to meals. We've long in my family had a ritual and routine of phones stay away from the table. Even those brief spaces of giving the brain a break from that constant stimulation and that constant scrolling, super important. I don't know if you've noticed that for yourselves or for your kids, but it's a huge issue for the brain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a time in my life where I'm able to not necessarily need to have my phone on me every second of the day because just because of my season that I'm in. And so it's been really interesting. Now, sometimes I just can leave it because I'm with my husband. That's who needs to reach me, right? And I can just leave my phone, not take it. And sometimes I make it a thing. Like before we'll go out to dinner, I'm going to be like, I'm going to leave my phone at home, or I'm going to leave my phone when we go for a walk, or like just making leaving it down for a minute a thing. And so I think it's actually it's very freeing, when you just put your phone down for an hour and not just disconnect from it. I think it's great.
I also love that idea of being able to leave your phone when you go for a walk. I have a harder issue just as a caregiver, as a mother. It's very hard for me to disconnect from my phone. I'm very glued to it, unfortunately, fortunately. But I do agree that there are times where it's like, I am going to go for this 20-minute walk and I don't need my phone. But what am I going to do if I can't listen to a podcast?
Right. Right. It's exactly those moments, though, that are so beneficial for supporting brain health, is the moments where we go, but what will I do? And it's in those moments where the brain can have a pause and do nothing. Boredom can be a great thing. I have said that to my kids and my pediatric patients for 3 decades now, that boredom is not a bad thing. Boredom is actually creates space for the brain to be able to do some of the best things that it's designed to do. But it's so interesting how we are in a time now where we're just used to that constant stimulation. And I think for women too, sometimes it's an issue of we actually feel badly about taking space and doing nothing because we're so primed for this idea of we should always be productive, right? If I'm going to go for a walk, I should listen to that podcast and return those texts and call my kids and whatever. And we need to step back and realize that whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours or whatever it is in between, the brain really benefits from us protecting that cognitive space. And even if, we need to have the phone with us, just even when we're on like social media, for example, being mindful of how much we're just scrolling, right? Because that burns. I mean, we could do a whole conversation about the impact that has on neurotransmitter levels and like burning out our dopamine system and how that impacts brain health. But even just taking breaks from that and going, oh, I went on, I saw what I needed to see or what I wanted to see. And now I'm going to be mindful about just putting the phone back in my pocket or in my bag and continuing on and not the scrolling. So just the awareness of that, huge for protecting that cognitive space. And the third tip for people. So we've done nutrient rituals, protecting cognitive space. And then the third one is having some kind of stress recovery practice, because stress is inevitable. Stress is not necessarily bad. The brain actually needs some stress. If we'd never had any stress about anything, we'd never get anything done and actually wouldn't function, right? The problem is that we, especially as women, tend to have an overabundance of stress that then can have negative effects on things like our cortisol levels, things like our brain's ability to focus, to regulate itself. We can get really anxious. We can feel really frazzled or inattentive. So having some kind of stress recovery practice, again, it's building a little buffer for the brain. It's saying, okay, we're going to have this stress and that's okay. The goal is not, I think sometimes people run around thinking, I have to reduce my stress. And then they create so much stress from trying to reduce it, right? Or like, I have to get healthy. I have to protect my brain health. And then it's another thing to be stressful about. It's like, nope, stress is going to be there. How do we train ourselves and our brain to coexist well with stress? So whether that is like, for me, I have a breathwork practice. It's not long, but it is daily and it is a non-negotiable for me. That is a really good stress reset for me. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's journaling or a gratitude practice. And I know you've had lots of episodes previously on the podcast on lots of these topics. So great. People can go back and refer to some of those. Even things like exercise, taking a walk, whatever helps you to have a reset, a pause, recalibrate those stress levels. That recovery process is very protective of brain health and really does, even if it's 5 minutes or 30 seconds of deep breathing here and 30 seconds there, it really does add up, and it has a wonderful effect on preserving brain function, protecting brain function. And, there's nutrients that we can use to support stress recovery as well. Things that fall under the category of adaptogens, things like L-theanine, saffron, rhodiola, ashwagandha, nutrients that can really help the brain to recover and reset from that stress. And those can play a wonderful role for many people, especially women, in helping us to recalibrate that stress and helping to protect the brain in that way. So those are my 3: nutrients, cognitive space, and stress recovery.
I love the stress recovery because I know for myself, like I just stopped breathing. I mean, like I just what breath. I mean, there was a period of time, a couple of years ago where, I don't think I took a breath for 6 months, like stress, trauma, all these things can do like horrible things to your person. And so just remembering to breathe, when you're in a stressful situation, I think is so important. And another thing that I do, and actually Tim taught me this, is I wait. I don't allow myself to react. And it's, why am I talking? Like I have to really kind of just take a moment. And I could either respond, I could be reactive, and I could respond in my high cortisol stress way, or I can think about why I'm talking. And I can, because nothing's going to change the situation. I can either respond to it in a stress reaction, or I can wait a minute and not. And so it's like a decision that I try to make when I'm in really stressful situations, but key is breathing. I mean,
oh my gosh, I feel like I breathe in my chest a lot. And sometimes I notice it and I'm like, oh my God, bring that breath through the body. Remember to take it all the way down. It's just here. And when you do, I have an alarm that's set on my iPhone, my iWatch. What do you call this thing? My iWatch.
Yeah.
And it goes off periodically throughout the day, which will remind me to just take a minute to just breathe. And what is so sad about it is that when it goes off, I realize that my shoulders are up here.
Yeah.
I'm just so tense. And I'm like, I'm just relax. Relax your body. It is so important. So you have to think that we are walking around just grit.
Like this.
Getting out, I think for me as well, going for a walk is really helpful for me and my stress release. Working out is something that really helps me too. So it is really about finding those pockets and moments to how to de-stress.
Also, I'm not a yoga person, but there's I'm not, because it's really hard for me, but the Shavasana where you just kind of lay it all out and not, because I find myself, even when I'm resting, I'm contorted.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So I have to contort myself. And I was just with my little niece, right? I was just on a holiday and I was with my little niece, Gemma, and she was having stress and anxiety. And so we did this whole exercise. I'm like, okay, let's lie down on these pool chairs and just unwind your body. And she was so cute. She felt better. So Shavasana, even if you don't do yoga.
It's great.
No, sorry.
For kids too.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was going to say for kids too, if you're a mom and you're I don't know, trying to figure out how to work this in, or this stuff is great for kids too. To your point, Shavasana or some simple yoga patterns or going for a walk together or doing some breathing. Wonderful for children, wonderful model, for us to be giving them. And then you don't have to try to find time and space away from them. Some of these things, again, you look at how to build it into life and you can do it with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to model that as well. So this is something that we ask all of our guests. Dr. Nicole, what are you not making time for that you were going to commit to making more time for today?
Mm-hmm. It goes back to something I said a few minutes ago about how as women, we are so primed to make the best use of every moment, to be productive, to get more done, to fit it all in. And I'm really good at that. And I'm really good at building rituals and routines to check all the boxes and get it done. What I am, and this was good as I was thinking about our conversation today and thinking about what my focus here would be. My commitment is to getting more comfortable and being intentional at making time for just joyful downtime, unstructured, not a check the box like, oh, I'm going to also, meet this goal or get this done, but just truly leaving some pockets of space to just have whatever happens, or to do nothing and to not feel guilty about that. So just like these joyful pockets of totally unstructured downtime. I think that would be really good for me and maybe good for some of our listeners too, to just kind of disentangle our sense of ourself from our productivity and from always needing to check a box, and just saying, no, it's okay for me to have this moment to just do nothing or to just see what comes up and experience the joy and the rest in that.
I love that. I've been trying to do the same thing lately because I'm very triple type A, and I'm like, I'm going to do all these things, and I've got all these ambitions, and I've got all these goals, and I've got to do all this stuff. It's going to be awesome. And I'm so into that. But I've been really trying to be super stingy with my weekends and allowing myself to really not pack them full and just leave some space there so I could just make time to just chill.
Yeah, not to be answering emails or to be doing all the other things. I mean, I'm in a really busy season right now, so I'm kind of giving myself a little, grace with how much I have coming in right now. But once I get past this, yes, I want to just get back to my weekends and preserving that for just joyfulness, being in the moment, even just going with the flow of the day. Let's just see where the day might take us.
Right.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, without a schedule and a to do. And I want to just, as we wrap up, comment on something there, Emma, that I think is really important for you and for probably many of our listeners. We all go through moments, seasons, stretches of life that are packed, right? Whether it is being a caregiver, whether it is with work, whether it's our own health issues, our own whatever, right? That's a normal part of life. And what I want everybody to realize is protecting and supporting your brain health doesn't mean we have to do all of these things well or consistently all the time. One of the things that I think is so beautiful about the human brain is how resilient and adaptive it is. And it gives us a lot of grace. Now, that doesn't mean we can neglect it and stay in a super hyper stressful mode constantly for ever and ever and ever, and then not expect that, that's going to be a problem. But it does mean that we can give ourselves grace for the season that we're in, for whatever it is that we have going on, to go, you know what, all is not lost. This is not now something I additionally need to be stressed about, that, oh my gosh, I've gone through this super stressful season and now, my brain and body are going to have issues as a result. When we come through that season, we can just pick back up with some of those practices and move from there. And I think that's a really freeing, really grace-filled way for us to approach everything in health and wellness, but particularly our brain. So I wanted to share that with people.
Dr. Nicole, thank you so much. I'm so it's been so amazing to have you on. Please, for people who are listening, how do they find you?
Yeah, the best place is at my website, drbuerkens.com. I'm not on social media too much anymore. That's a way that I am preserving and protecting my peace and my brain health. But Instagram is the best place to find me. And it's just at Dr. Nicole Buerkens.
Beautiful. Dr. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. This was just so educational and insightful, and we really appreciate you making time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope that listening to our podcast has empowered you to make more time for yourself. So please remember to subscribe and share with a friend who could also use a healthy reminder on the importance of making time.
Make sure to tune in as we will continue to have incredible guests that will share their Make Time tips on our upcoming episodes. Come say hi to us over on @MakeTimePod on social media or visit us at MakeTimeWellness.com.
Until next time, make time.